Welcome to the Vantage Fit Corporate Wellness Podcast. This podcast is sponsored by Vantage Fit, the all-in-one AI-powered corporate wellness platform developed by Vantage Circle.
Mental health for the monkey mind pertains to maintaining optimal psychological well-being and balance amidst a restless and easily distracted mind. Developing mental health for the monkey mind is beneficial to achieving a state of tranquility, clarity, and cognitive functioning. Hello and welcome to another episode of Vantage Fit Corporate Wellness Podcast, where we dive deep into the realm of corporate wellness, its well-being practices and strategies. My name is Parishmita and today's topic on the agenda is mental health for monkey minds. I would like to introduce our guest speaker Chandra Sekar R, a certified change management professional and organizational development specialist. So stay tuned as we dive deeper into the topic. So hello Chandra, welcome to our show.
Hi, thanks for having me on your show.
We are glad that you are here today.
I'm glad as well. I was quite thrilled when Pranismita reached out to me on LinkedIn to do a podcast for your client on the topic of mental health. And I said that I'm no expert in mental health or wellness. By virtue of doing, performing the role of an organization development professional, yes, I have gathered certain perspectives, views on the topic. So whatever responses that I'm going to give on your show is an amalgamation of my own experiences that I've heard from people that I interact with, articles that I've read up, or listening to certain podcasters who talk on this topic, right? So it's only going to be an amalgamation of all that. I hope your listeners find some value listening to this podcast on the topic.
Of course they will. So, Chandra, I would like to ask you a very, basic question, on which our topic is based today. So, what is a monkey mind and how does it affect the mental wellness of an employee in the workplace?
Sure. So, as the topic says, mental health for the monkey mind. So, the monkey mind is a metaphor. Okay. I've borrowed it from the Buddhist philosophy, where the mind is referred to as the monkey mind to say that it is unsettled, restless, anxious, capricious. So it's not in a state of stability. It's unstable, right? Just as how you find a monkey, which is doing something or the other every moment. So such is the mind of man as well. So I think we got a lot of work to do in terms of taming our mind, because we have tamed our mind, and which is why we have today got a social mind, which is available to people and all of that. So our journey from the barbaric periods to, a social human being has been really long. But again, there is much work to do in terms of taming of the mind to stay in good health, to stay in good mental health, right? So that's what I just said. We could have also told that, mental health for the contemporary mind, for the modern man and all of that. But I just wanted to give it a little bit of a twist to the story.
Yes, I understand. Like keeping the mind in proper shape.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very important because people these days who focus only on keeping their body in shape, but keeping our mind, spirit, and soul in shape is equally important, right?
So true. And I also go with you that a human form is not just physical, but I think it's got 3-4 dimensions to it. One is physical, other is emotional, other is the mind aspect of it. And then the spiritual aspect of it. So all of these 4 facets of the human form is like the 4 wheels of the car. It needs to be in alignment for the car to move forward.
Absolutely. So moving forward, in order to effectively manage the monkey mind in the workplace and improve their mental wellness, employees can employ various strategies and practices. So I would like to ask you, how can employees effectively manage their monkey mind in the workplace to improve their mental health and overall well-being?
Sure. I would like to touch upon certain aspects here. One from an individual point of view and another from an employee point of view and another from the interaction between the employee and the manager, right? So from an employee and individual point of view, we've heard of this, a lot of factors that contribute to reinforcing the monkey mind, but we have to tame it, right? So therefore, while we have a lot of things to do at work, it's good to have this 2x2 matrix: important, not important; urgent, not urgent, right? So it's important, it's essential we focus on the important and urgent aspect first, and then focus on the rest of the other tasks that we have. So there's a simple thing that one can follow so that the person is not fretting, okay, I need to deliver this. Okay, that is there. Okay, I need to meet this timeline, right? But this 2x2 matrix is going to bring a lot of peace in your mind. Secondly, start off with small things, because those are ways to gain small wins. That's the best way to, keep the ball rolling. Okay. That is the second aspect. The third aspect today, being victimized to a perfectionist syndrome, right? A lot of people today have the perfectionist syndrome, to be perfect, even though the world has moved to an agile kind of world, which means we have brought agile methodologies to the work output we create in the workplace. But still, I think we are hung back to the perfectionist mindset. I think we should let go of it, because it really gets the mind to do a lot of monkey tricks. It starts out with postponing the task because you want it just that way, right? B, you start creating reasons and justifying why you cannot start the task.
Excuses.
Yeah. And C, you also build up a lot of fear to succumbing to meeting timelines. At the end of the day, you don't get to start the work. You don't get to start the task, right? It's very difficult. And if you look at the perfectionist syndrome, it's very tricky. A person who is a perfectionist primarily is not happy with oneself. Let me put it bluntly, right? Anything that is brought to him or her, they will be able to find flaws in it. They'll be able to find mistakes in it. Why it is not perfect, right? So that's a sad state to be. So I think if somebody is going through that syndrome, they need to really become aware of and start gradually and then complete the task rather than postponing the task, to get that perfect output that they want to get. Fourthly, I think it's very important that we develop this mindset of acceptance. Okay, there are things that you can control at workplace. There are things that you cannot control at workplace. While you give all that you could give into your project or work, whatever that you're undertaking. But at the end of the day, there are certain things where different stakeholders play a role. Your customers could play a role in it. Your clients can have the decision-making power. Your higher-ups would have a say in it. And therefore, you may find there are certain work tasks which is getting postponed forever, right? So that builds up a lot of negativity in people, which in a way affects your mental health. So I'm saying that if you could develop a mindset of acceptance, when I say, there is a little bit of nuance here, right? So I'm saying you accept it, not necessarily agree to it. Because the moment you accept it, you will find ways to make it happen. If you don't accept the situation, the reality the way it is, you will only start building up negativity within you, and that energy is not going to work in favor of you. So it's important to develop a mindset of acceptance. Trust me, it will give you back a lot of balance in you. Okay? And so those are the aspects of an employee or individual. I have two things to touch upon when it comes to your manager, right? There are a lot of articles and speeches on empathy. Managers should be empathetic. Leaders should be, empathetic with their people and employees and all of that. But nobody talks about how can employees and people or the teams be in turn empathetic with a manager or leader. That's equally important, right? I firmly believe empathy is a two-way street. I think we should show empathy the way the manager is showing you. Because at the end of the day, even a manager or a leader is a human being. They also have their own set of challenges and hindrances that they face And therefore, they can come by sometimes as arrogant or authoritarian. But then it's very important for the team or the person who's working under a manager to really empathize where the manager is coming from. Why the manager is saying, I need it now, rather than judging the person, right? So I think that's also very important. Why am I touching upon the manager-employee relationship? Is because I think that's one important relationship in a workplace, right? That relationship, the health of that relationship impacts a lot of aspects for an employee's career growth. And therefore, I thought it's important I touch upon that. And the last point between the employee and the manager is also for the employee to call out the challenges they may face in delivering something to the manager and seek for help, right? Seeking for help is seen as weak, but let me tell you, it gives you a lot of strength and it only will work for you. And also getting expectations clarified by the manager is very important rather than you assuming something and going about doing something. So those are some of the smaller aspects that one can do at workplace at an individual level and with their manager. Hopefully that will keep people in good mental health.
Absolutely. Now I can connect your first answer with the second, like you said, hopping mind, Yes, some things in life are complicated, including, human beings and the mind.
Yeah, the human mind has always remained a difficult thing to decode.
Yes. So moving forward, when facing a monkey mind in the workplace, employees encounter common challenges that can hinder productivity and well-being. However, by implementing specific strategies and techniques, they can effectively overcome these challenges and cultivate a more focused and balanced state of mind. So, in this aspect, can you address some of the common challenges employees face and what strategies they can use to overcome them?
Sure. I think it's an important question. And here I would like to touch 2-3 aspects. One is, I think we live in a world that somewhere looks up on multitaskers. So multitasking is one thing. Sometimes it's okay. But then if multitasking becomes the way of work life, the way of culture, it becomes very difficult for people to cope up with such workplace cultures. Okay. And organizations that foster multitasking, I think it's a clear signal that it's a toxic culture. Okay, because it's not going to work for the well-being of the employee or for anyone for that matter. I think we should be really aware of it and see how to streamline rather than multitasking. The way to do it is complete one thing at a time and go to the next. Okay, and get your priorities clear from your manager. While I have 5 things to do, what are those 2 things that I need to deliver immediately so that you're able to focus on those 2 things rather than on 5 things. Right? I think that's one aspect. And the other aspect is, there are certain organizations that has a culture which embraces firefighting. I'm in firefighting mode. I'm there to save the team and all of that. More often than not, a firefighting kind of workplace is a workplace that actually do not have a clear plan in place. Because of the lack of plan, people and teams tend to firefight in the last minute. And that becomes a culture in itself, In fact, it becomes so strong that tomorrow, if a new employee joins the team, and if the person is not able to cope up with firefighting, is seen as weak or incompetent. Now, that's a sad thing. A, you've created a wrong culture. B, you're also assessing the person on a wrong culture, wrong reference, right?
Very clear.
So I think that is something that you need to be really aware of. That's a great challenge for mental health, I would say. And thirdly, frequently changing timelines. I will need it on Tuesday, on Friday, or they will prepone it, So I think, it's very important. Organizations, managers, leaders know how to prioritize. You cannot have both your eyes on 10 different things. If you want to focus and deliver something, then please choose those top 2 to 3 things that will actually give you a better return. Right? I think these are some things that I wanted to touch. Fourth aspect, a very small aspect, but I've seen this in certain organizations where there is something written on the policy, but then when people follow the policy, they are not seen in good light. For example, hybrid work style has become a reality today, right? But again, the same manager who has approved of that policy will tell the team member to come to work no matter what. Now, the policy says something and the manager is demonstrating something. So this misalignment or non-alignment of expectation would definitely cause a lot of angst in employees, which is completely unnecessary. So I think these are some aspects that one needs to be aware of in terms of challenges posed to mental health.
Absolutely. If an employee does 10 to 15 works in a day or in a constant stretch, I think that it's not a human, that's a superhuman work a manager is asking, right?
Yeah.
So it is consequential for employees and managers or HRs to create a positive and safe working space, as what we were talking about, to strive towards success, be in good health, and become better at balancing personal and professional life. So in your opinion, how can employers create a supportive work environment that addresses mental health need of the employees with a monkey mind?
Yeah, I think this is very important because as employers or organizations, we need to build a system. And I would like to, divide the system into 3 layers. One is at an individual self level, other is at a manager, leader, that level, and the other is at an organization level, right? At a self level, I think today we see organizations espousing to on-demand counseling services. Right? They provide it free of cost for employees, and some organizations provide it even for employees, families, friends, supporting as a great support for their mental health. Now, that's a great, move by organizations towards mental health. And secondly, I think organizations should also create events and practices that encourages the well-being of an employee. Sometimes some people are not even aware that there is something called well-being. I need to take care of myself. The word self-care is as alien as it sounds to be for some people, right? So I think organizations can invite expert speakers from the industry to come and address their audience, to come and address their employees on the importance of mental health and how to tackle them. So this is at a self and individual level. At a manager leadership level, I think we have to make this training mandatory for all managers and leaders. And the training is called inclusive leadership skills. Okay. Because when you do that, everything comes under that, psychological safety, building an environment which is trustful. A lot of aspects come into it. Respect, belonging, being valued, all of that comes into inclusive leadership skills. And I think organizations should make this training mandatory, especially for leaders and managers. If they can do it for everyone, well and good. Then it becomes a great intervention. If not, at least for the managers and leaders, that will go a long way in supporting employees' mental health, right? And certain other aspects like, sometimes in organizations, people take it as a given thing that if I grow a certain level and above, I'll become a team manager. Not even realizing whether the person is capable of being a team manager, right? One. So as an organization, I think we need to build systems, assessment systems, to say whether the person is capable of being a team manager or not. And of course, there could be some set of competencies and skills that they can assess people on, right? At least an objective assessment of sort. That is one. And two, ask people whether they want to be a people manager or not. Because for all you know, some people do not want. And just so that they grow up in the career, they take up that role and grow up. And therefore, I think it makes sense to provide dual career paths in organizations where there is a management career path track and there is a technical or expert career track, so that it actually can solve a lot of people issues in the organization. Because giving a team to a person who's actually not made to handle the team the way they had to handle is actually running the risk of losing that entire team, right? So that is one aspect. Another aspect is, I think as managers and leaders, we need to give autonomy to our teams. While there could be deliverables that you set as expectation, you tell the what of it, you tell the why of it, give the purpose, but the how of it, leave it to the team to do it. If the team comes back for help, of course, you can definitely pitch in and help. Otherwise, I think we should give a certain sense of autonomy to people, because that's when people learn how to take ownership of. Otherwise, it'll always be somebody telling from the top and you doing it down there, right? Which is not an interesting place to be. So managers should move from a telling culture to an asking culture. From being, it's basically saying that, how do managers wear the coaching hat in its true spirit? Then you create a wonderful team. Right? So I think those are some of the things at the manager level. At an organization level, I think we need to, after COVID, it's become even more, I would say. There are cultures which I call it the hyper meeting cultures. There is 9 hours of work, 8 hours goes into meetings. Now, where is the time to work? Very hard, right? I mean, how do you actually do the work then? Which means you'll have to stretch for another 4-5 hours to at least do some amount of work and to show progress.
Yes.
Very difficult. I think we need to set policies and sensitize managers, leaders, and people around not having a hyper meeting culture. And in the recent past, there's a lot of emphasis laid on we need to do it in speed. So there's a speed culture. We need to do it fast. We need to complete it. Yes, it is important, but then people mistake the word speed, right? So people think that come what may, I do it in a very short time, that is speed. Or I do it in the last minute and I ensure that it is completed, that is speed. That's not. You have a robust plan in place. The speed had to be an outcome of your robust plan, not, by crook or hook. It's organizations misinterpret the word speed really very much. And let me tell you, it takes a toll on people. While people would have delivered and the leadership is happy, organization is happy, but who's getting hit are the people that work for the organization. It really takes a toll on their health.
Right.
Another aspect is, can organizations create, events that enable networking and bonding to happen in organizations? It could be as simple as a cultural event or, an informal event where they get people together and then they create an environment where people bond with each other, right? At the end of the day, we are all social animals. So we need bonding at workplace. And given the fact that we spend almost 1/3 of our life at workplace, 9 hours is almost 1/3, right?
Right.
In a given day. So I think it's very important you make meaningful relationships at workplace. And can organizations also kind of create ecosystems for that? And the last two things which I would like to also emphasize on at an organization level is, today we do a lot of things, we complete it and go on. Work stays at a very surface level. Can organizations encourage deep work projects? Take up projects that is close to your heart and give it some 2 hours a week. They just focus on that work. Deep work is completely missing in today's organizations. Everybody is running on short-term goals and all of that. I'm saying all that is fine. But for long-term impact, you need to invest into projects. And these, I call it as deep work projects. I'm borrowing the deep work word from Carl Newport, the author of the book Deep Work. And he interestingly speaks about the need for focused attention in a distracted world, right? It's very important. Unless we provide people the space at workplaces to get involved with deep work projects, we will be creating people who are only working at a surface level, because everything is happening at a surface level. There's nothing that people hold close to themselves. There's no passionate projects that people are working, right? And last but not the least, can organizations have something called silent rooms, right? Where people just go sit quiet. They just go observe quietness within themselves. They may meditate, they may pray, but not make noise. I don't want to call it as a prayer room because it's not a secular word. But can we have silent rooms where people do nothing but just go and sit, have their own me time? I think it will go a long way in plugging back into themselves, right? I think it's very important for organizations to, if at all they can create that, it'll be a great step to supporting mental health in people. Yeah.
Right, Chandra, I absolutely agree with you, no, on these aspects. So, are there any specific mindfulness techniques or practices that can help employees quiet the mind and enhance their focus and productivity at work? As you have talked about silent rooms and inclusive leadership and everything.
There are certain small activities or exercises that you can do as you're working at your cabin or cubicle, wherever you sit. First principle is focus one thing at a time. When you're writing a mail, just focus on that mail. Okay, you write a mail, you take a call and talk to somebody. It's not going to do justice to all of these 3 activities that you're engaged with at that point of time. One thing at a time. Okay? There's a famous Zen line that goes like, when you walk, when you talk, you talk.
Yes.
And if you're able to do that, you will also die when you die. You completely will die when you die. Right? It's a very profound line. So one thing at a time. And as you're working, just check up on your breath. Whether you're breathing well, whether you're breathing deeply. Because most of us engage only with surface breathing. That's only going to dissipate your energy. It won't contain your energy. So ensure that you're breathing well and breathing deep, right? That will solve a lot of your mood swings, trust me. As you're working, you can do this. Thirdly, I think it's very important to buy a good footwear for yourself, which is not causing any trouble, because feet is a place where a lot of nodal points end, right? So feet is a very important part of the region. A lot of nodal points end there and start from there. So I think it's very important you place your feet flat on the ground when you're working with your back erect, comfortably erect, right? So these are some things that you can always do while you're at work, right? Just you need to keep on checking how your body is responding to it when all of this is taken care. And the other aspect is the chatter of the mind. See, what is a mind? Actually, it's a trail of thoughts, right? When there are no thoughts, there's no mind, right? When we sleep, we don't see the world. And when we wake up, suddenly the world comes up before us, right? So where did the world go when we sleep? It's because no mind, no world. It goes to that, right? So I'd like to quote a famous book, which is Getting in the Gap by Wayne Dyer. I think it's a very good book. That's one book I really enjoyed reading. It's a small book. It's a short read, but it's a wisdom from the author, right? Basically, what the author is saying is, in between two thoughts is where you find creativity. In between, so which is why Getting in the Gap. The book's name is Getting in the Gap. The gap is between the two thoughts. So as you're doing many things in your work, there are thoughts that are coming. Witness the thoughts and see if you can spend some time in the gap. Before the next thought occurs, see if you can spend some time in the gap, in the space between the two thoughts. And as you keep doing, you will see that that space is getting prolonged, right? Your time in that space between the two thoughts is getting prolonged. And when you keep on doing this practice, you will come a point where you're absolutely okay with no thoughts and you're delving into a very ecstatic state, right? So these are some few things that I thought I'll share with your audience.
Yes, I certainly like the idea, what you have shared, and I know that our listeners will also like it. Moving forward, what role does self-care play in managing the monkey mind in the workplace, and what practical strategies can employees incorporate into their daily routine?
I think it's very important to have a certain discipline in your life so that takes care of you. I always encourage to have some kind of a body workout system to be followed by people. And I suggest they do it in the morning, because while you get past the morning, you get into a lot of activities. So for me, my yoga, meditation, and the night walk that I do gives me a lot of energy. And I stick to it. I ensure that I don't miss it. I have missed my breakfast in the morning, but not my yoga. right? I think it's very important. So the second most important thing is, I think we all should learn to be in solitude with ourselves. Sometime. I'm not asking people to go to the mountains. Sometime within yourself, you need to enjoy the solitude. And let me tell you, if you start doing that by practice, you will see that even amidst chaos, you're very silent. Even when people are not around, you're okay with that. You don't feel lonely. You are alone, but you don't feel lonely, right? There is a famous adage that says that if you're lonely when you're alone, then you're in bad company. I hope that should not happen to anybody. So please learn to be in solitude. Start with small durations, and you will see that's only growing better for you.
Absolutely. So this reminds me of William Wordsworth poem, I guess, Daffodil.
Daffodil.
That's solitude.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I get your point, Chandra. Like, true self-care plays a pivotal role in effectively managing the mind in the workplace, serving as a cornerstone for nurturing mental wellness and counteracting these challenges posed by a restless mind. So here we are arriving at the end of this session. So Chandra, suggest some valuable tips to our listeners and also tell us where they can find you.
See, I think we spoke a lot on the tips front. At the end of the day, in conclusion, I would like to emphasize that mental health is a choice that people make, right? If you make mental health as your choice, as a value which is of utmost importance to you, then your course of action will be likewise. Otherwise, it will be against it. So if you want to hold your mental health in good spirit, then please make it as a choice, because then your course of action is only going to reinforce that value of yours. And practice some form of body and mind practices. We are in India. It's the best place, to learn any kind of practice. There are different schools of practices. I'm not suggesting a particular one, but just keep up to it. Keep up one thing at least in your life. I started off my spiritual journey in 2011. And since then till now, I have always kept on to some form of practice. Either a meditation practice or a yoga practice, some form has been there in my life. And that's only anchored me into myself, right? People can find me on LinkedIn. Okay, my screen time analytics on the phone says that I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. So that's one app that I cannot get rid of. And I do post on, a variety of subjects. My posts are very spontaneous. It's not on a particular day or whatever, but then it's very spontaneous. I write on leadership, organization, culture, mental health, teams, and self-awareness. So if at all somebody wants to connect with me, my profile name reads Chandra Sekar R, and the salutation is organizational development, speaker, muser, pride ally.
Thank you, Chandra. It was so nice to have you here.
Thank you so much. And I would like to especially thank Vantage Fit to have approached me for this podcast. Yeah. It's been a great experience for me. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to Vantage Fit Corporate Wellness Podcast. Please do subscribe to Vantage Fit Corporate Wellness Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and our YouTube channel for new episodes.